We'll start our next session called, it's a book launch titled Interior Design of Pakistan by Maria Aslam. It's being moderated by Mr. Iftikhar Azam. Iftikhar Azam is the principal architect and CEO of his practice, H3 Consultants. Mr. Azam has been an adjunct faculty and a member of the Board of Studies of Indus Valley School of Architecture. He has been a jury member for several national architectural competitions and award programs. I'd like to request him to please come on stage, and also like to request the audience to please keep your phones on silent throughout the session so that complete silence can be observed. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the session. Thank you.
Good morning. Welcome to this book launch of PIID's Interior Design of Pakistan book. It's an honor and a privilege to moderate the session with such luminaries here. What we know about interior design is it's a very interesting field. And a lot of times we have this debate that where does architecture end and where does interior design start. And interiors primarily reflect the lifestyle of individuals. It reflects image for a corporation, and it talks about the state of a society in general. Architecture has always been considered something that we talk about in terms of a historian of civilizations because of its longevity. When we talk about the Greek civilization, we look at the remains and we see, what those people look like, and how they lived their lives, and what kind of a political system they lived in. The longevity of interior design it has a different kind of a time frame, and hence it gives you snippets of a civilization further dissected way. You look in a lot of debates we talk about interior as a fashion, and I think it's much more than that and beyond that. We talk about, for example, it talks about moods also. It talks about the situation where if you look back into another era at something like color, and we always talk about color as something which can change your mood. So color has also been used as a weapon. I mean, you talk about the Nazis' red rooms where people were put in and they had to totally lose orientation. And you can use these materials to create happiness, a somber environment, or even a sense of holiness and religious kind of a feeling about it. So interiors have had its impact on human life throughout, and I think it's something which is catching up in our society, and we are realizing the importance of interiors. As the poet said, "Pul bana, cha bana, masjid o talab bana, faiz chahta hai to faiz ke asbab bana." So we have people here who are the faiz ke asbab, which hopefully we'll be able to talk to and get their input, and which will increase our sense of understanding about how interiors affect our lives. This book is a marvelous achievement by the PIID, and Danish is here to thank him that he has mentioned my name in the first ever or the first couple of meetings that we had in this house when we were talking about establishing this the PIID. Unfortunately, I wasn't in the country when the final charter was signed, so obviously I'm not one of the charter members of the organization. But thank you, Danish, for remembering it. And it was a long journey. I mean, I think it started in like 1998, 97, and it took us almost 20 years to get to. Azam, I guess. She has been serving in leading University of Pakistan in various capacities and has presented papers on socio-urban and architectural dynamics in intellectual conferences. Maria, can I request you to please join us? Do I have to actually introduce Shahid Abdulla? I mean, this is going to be the most obvious. If I really have to introduce Shahid Abdulla, I'll do it as a formality. Architect Shahid Abdulla is a principal and founding partner of Architect Shahid Abdulla, which was formed in 1979 along with his brother Arshad Abdulla. Shahid Saab is a member of the Pakistan Council of Architects and Town Planners, and he's also founding chairperson of the Institute of Interior Design in Pakistan. In 1990, along with a group of concerned individuals, he founded the Indus Valley School of Art and Architecture. Ramza is also here. In 2008, he helped found the Hunar Foundation, which has been a great help to the skilled labor and promoting the School of Skills for Pakistan. Shahid, can I request you please join us? Naheed is an architect, and she established her practice in 1993. She would have said 2003, and still we would have believed it because it doesn't look like she has been around that long. So then, architecture and interior design projects, she has done a lot of them with it, and most of us have visited one place or the other that was designed by her and enjoyed a nice dinner or coffee there. She was a mark in hospitality and residential designs, and she has received a fellowship in 2011 of Pakistan Institute of Interior Designers. She was the first recipient of the Ladies Fund Women Entrepreneurship Award in 2008 and served as the chairperson of Pakistan Institute of Interior Design. I request you to join us, please. Well, thank you very much. I think it's, first of all, if I can take the liberty for asking Maria to tell us a little bit about the history and how this book came about and what it took to get to this point.
Well, I think there are others on the stage who know the history of the book well. But if I may start, it happened during it was conceived initially by Danish Saab, and it actually came into realization during Naheed's tenure at the PIID. I was part of the committee, and we were initiating events and what we need to do in that particular term and all of that, and that's when the book started coming and evolving itself. I mean, the process of the book is long. It took us good 2 to 3 years to actually get to 2016, where the book actually got published. And there were various formats that were discussed. There was an intense team that went through all the projects. And the book is primarily on the members of the PIID. It wasn't open out to the general practicing interior designers or architects. So the whole idea was that we pull them into the institute and highlight their work and promote interior design and, of course, the practicing architects and designers. So that was the idea. And I think we kind of, in a great realm, actually were able to fulfill it. And by the tail end of the book, there was a lot of work coming in that we had to sift through. And you know how interiors, like Iftikhar mentioned, has a life of its own, you know. So even while we were going through the projects, we realized that some of them, even visually, while looking at them and going through them, you realize that they are old in the way the technology has been used, or in the diversity of the materials, or in, I mean, specific to technological movements that come into the interior design. So I think that it was an immense process that went into the working of the book.
I'm sure it was not very easy to actually, because I think our community in general is not very good in documenting their own work.
Absolutely.
And to force them into document it and then give it to you for publication, even though it's for their everybody's benefit, but it doesn't come easy in this country.
You would be surprised to know that I would get works which people would snapshot at WhatsApp and through their phone and send it out to me, and I'm saying, listen, this is...
You don't have to be personal about it. Let's not...
Without taking names, but this is how it happened, and then to actually go back to them and tell them, okay, these are the number of pictures, these are the visuals that you need to photograph, like on a professional note, and then send it back to us. So it was a huge task, actually, and that was that, to get the work in the right context from them. Yes.
Let me talk to Shahid about this subject a little bit, because one debate which always goes on in terms of interior and architecture, and most of us are architecture trained as architects, graduated as architects, started practicing and did a lot of work purely in an architectural realm, but also then started doing interiors also. So, and I think there's a interesting perception that interiors is only about maybe residences or to a certain extent hospitality, but interiors can be of a pharmaceutical company. You did the Khadi factory. There are institutional projects which have a lot more functionality and concerns. So, in a project where it's a little beyond doing the fabric selections, how do you merge with architecture when the architecture is not done by yourself? Because the things have already happened.
In the early days, I guess the interior design was a part of architecture. As I would say, many other fields, that they've gone into more specialization. There used to be an MBBS doctor who took care of everything, but now they're, I think, hard to find. So interior design, at least the way I see it, that where the architect leaves off, and if and this would be true hopefully for all interior designers, that it's not about decorating a space, at least not for an architect. The architect looks at it, as Naheed is also an architect and you are an architect, and we do a lot of interior design. So what we're really saying is, how can you make the space more habitable, more enjoyable to live in or work in, or and work, like you said, it could be a factory, or it could be a work, an office, or a hospital, or anything. So yes, a good example was the Khadi factory. When they came to us, they didn't come to us for interior design, but they asked us that if we can design the factory, and I said, look, I've never designed a factory. So but it was quite challenging, because it was all about people. It was all about people in there. There were like about 500 weavers and people who were doing embroideries and whatever, and it went down to went up to 1,000, 2,000, and I don't know how many thousand now. But it was all about people, and you had to see where they're coming from, and it wasn't about air conditioning, and it wasn't about what kind of color you do on a wall and how pretty it's going to look. It's a work environment, and you So I brought in a lot of nature inside because that's what they were really used to. So they used to work either in their hutments or in their casual home environments where they had the murga or a bakri or whatever around, and they're doing their work happily. And so one had to be conscious of that. And so we actually went around, and it wasn't interior design as such that most people would say that, so how have you designed it? Designing is all about understanding that you don't over design. As far as retail is concerned, I think all of us are competent to design something better than the product. So you have to understand. So there was a retail clothing company that came to me and they said, well, can you design our shop extremely well? And I said, well, I can, but if you can improve your clothes, otherwise we will have to under design so that at least your clothes can sell. And we did, and they were very unhappy कि जी आपने खादी के लिए तो देखिए जी इतनी अच्छी दुकान बना दी और हमारे लिए आपने ऐसी कर दी. So I said, please try to understand that we will have to grow because it's the first time you're coming into a mall. You've always been on the streets. And you had a customer base which was fine, you were successful. Now suddenly sort of an average design brand comes to a high-end mall and they want to immediately compete with somebody else. So it doesn't work that way. So you have to understand your client because, and I have to admit that many years ago there was one individual, a jeweler came to us and said that we are not into retail and we export all our jewelry. And so we asked them, where do you export it? And they said, oh, we send it to France and we send it to Hong Kong and Singapore and this, that, whatever. And I said, okay, this guy must be really good. So we made a very big mistake of not asking them to show us the jewelry. Tariq Kaisar was working with us at that time, and so I asked Tariq to, design their displays, and I got personally involved, and others got and we really did a fantastic job of that shop. It was just off Zebul-Nisa Street. I think they went broke after that because when they put the jewelry, it was like a Sarafa Bazaar jewelry out there, which was, and so all the haves and they all came, and because it was a beautiful shop and it was and that was a huge lesson for me at that time, that you do not over design, and it wasn't that I was trying to compete with them. And so they said, oh, well, we'll have our foreign buyers coming here and we'll have. So it's very important to understand your client and their needs. And like you rightly said, interior design actually begins from the outside, is how you are approaching something. That you are entering a restaurant, like Naheed when she does her beautiful restaurants. It doesn't begin after you enter the door. It has to begin from outside. It is a build-up on what you're about to experience. And so being an architect really helps, because you first have to worry about the parking, and you have to worry about the valet, and you have to worry about the signage, and you have to worry about all of these experiences of what you're about to experience inside. So anyway, I can go on and on. Sorry.
No, it's very interesting because it's like, I remember having a young French lady who was working with us in Chicago, and she was the graphic designer. So every time we had a building to do, and I would go to her and say, do this, do that, do this. And she would get so annoyed. Like, leave me alone. I know my job, you do your job. But as architects, we have this thing that we know everything, actually. And actually we do, but that's okay. So, moving on to the subject, I was going to ask Naheed is, if we look at interiors, I find it in sort of two aspects of it. One is the ideology and the philosophy of design, and the other is the materiality and the craftsmanship. So how do you, how do you have this mix and match of the two, and what is more important to you in your work, and how do you judge a successful product? Because sometimes if the idea is very strong and very good, but for reasons it doesn't come across as well because of the craftsmanship or workmanship or whatever. But so what is more important to you?
I'm going to go a little bit beyond material use and ideologies and concepts and everything, and I'm going to go back to what Shahid Saab said, which is people. I really think it's even people. I mean, if we look at ourselves and our thoughts, there's this maxim which tells us that think through your head and not through your heart. I'm going to go a little bit deeper into that. I think most thoughts come from emotion, and emotions are linked to the five senses. And the five senses, out of all of them, the sight is the most prominent one. 80% of all our learning comes from the sense of sight. And 50%, more than half our brain actually is processing images. All it does is processes images. Now, if you look at that, we realize that interiors, or what we see, is all about working with the five senses. Sight being the maximum, but then there are other senses like the sense of smell, or the feel, the touch. We all know how exciting it is when you go into like Barnes & Noble and you smell the coffee, or you touch the leather sofa, you want to actually read, or go into the shop and go through the pages. So I think design is a very, very sensory thing. The materials do come, they come a little bit later. Most of us, I think, as senior designers, we are a little bit more in touch with our the emotional well-being of the person we design for, as opposed to the logical or the more conscious well-being. I think I have started personally designing on a more subconscious level, where I think the primary idea is to design from a sense of feeling more than the visual or the logical kind of thing. So I think it's no more when you put 5 things together or 3 beautiful paintings together and hope for a good interior. It's about the emotions that you invoke when a person walks in. And I think with that as the starting point, everything else just kind of unfolds. So for me, it's that way. And I think most designers do work in that.
So you want to go into a room and say that दीवारों से बातें करना अच्छा लगता है?
Well, yes, I do. Actually, I talk to my furniture, and I do talk to my.
They talk back?
Yeah, they do. They do. Because everything that we use has a correlation with the other, the object that's in the room. It has a correlation with the person who's using it. And I think the art is to get all of it together. And that is when you can invoke a sense of relaxation, a sense of healing, a sense of conversation. I mean, it all depends on what you want to really get into the interior. Restaurants probably should be designed for a more invigorating energy, more conversation maybe, whereas maybe a spa has a more relaxing, a more healing kind of a thing. And then again, it's all about the 5 senses coming together.
Yeah, I think you're very right in saying that the sight is a very, very important one, because lighting levels can change
Absolutely.
an interior totally. I mean,
Yeah.
you go to a formal restaurant, and if you change the lux level from, let's say, 100 to 300,
Yeah.
it will destroy it. I mean, it's just totally gone.
It'll destroy it completely.
Sorry, yeah.
I said something about sight. Sorry, I couldn't help it when I said sight, which means look. If you look, I read somewhere yesterday that, I married my wife for her looks, but not the ones she's giving me now. So, yes, it's all about looks, and it's all about the packaging, and it's all about. But I just want to mention that the Institute of Interior Design, interior designers, was thought of by Mr. Danish Zubi, who's sitting right here, and I'd like to acknowledge that. And also he pushed the book, that we have to have a book, we have to be recognized. And I also must recognize my dearest friend, Mr. Imran Mir, who made the logo and it was all about, I asked him what it was about, and he says it's all in your hands. And this is the space that you work with. So within the space is where interior design comes in, and it's the almost the Sadiq fingers that he had in there, the creative fingers in there. So inshallah he will be remembered forever. So. Okay.
I wanted to ask Maria that Naheed was bringing up a good topic of that it's not about the building. Like even in architecture, it says it's not about the building; it's about the people. When the good architecture is about places which people enjoy. People, I mean, if you are not considering your user, then you are missing out. You think that the ergonomics from a technical side and emotions from the emotional side of it, how does it play a role in our design of spaces?
Okay, I will brief you about the book to answer your question. The book is actually an anthology of around 40 odd projects taken from 20 odd architects and designers, and it ranges into segments of 6 segments, which cover residential aspect, which cover the restaurants, which cover retail, and what else do we have, right?
Institutional, hospitality.
Yes. Yeah, hospitality is there, institutional is there, residential and educational. Yes, and retail and commercial. So with that intensive and huge segment, the way the book was choreographed is that it opens with Habib Fida Ali's residence, and how there is a very intimate and emotional linkage towards that project. And not only that, he's also preserving history and heritage, and how he does it with all his work, his accumulation of work. So I thought that was a very sensitive way of opening the book. And then of course we move on to other residences which were happening then. And it was a huge palette of material, but again very sensitized towards the client's need. And the client again was a famous artist, and how that particular client's individuality was reflected in that project is again an immense portfolio. So, and that's how we went on towards the other segments. We mentioned Khadi, then we mentioned Naheed's restaurant. Similarly, there are retails which are very present, but I know in about 5 years' time they might have a different logo, different branding, and also. So interiors was capturing all that we have been talking about. Like some want to stay, some want to document, some want to make a statement, but we have to identify the project as to which direction it is going. What is it that the client is actually wanting from his or her project? So that need to understand is very, very, very important and crucial to any project. So
I think one thing which I enjoyed about the book a lot is the little essays inserted in between. So and they come from different aspects, from textile to spatiality to
food.
So it's art. Samira is a piece of art, and so it gives you a good sort of a wholesome feel about how different people approach design and architecture. And I think I'll ask about the fact that culture and society always is reflected in architecture of its time. When we talk about interior design, it's also probably true. And how do you see that as an indicator if we want to go back to a civilization, they go back to an Ottoman palace and see the kind of fabrics that were used, or the carpets that were used, or the interior spaces that were created. And obviously in a cultural setting which is quote unquote Islamic, or a cultural setting which is something else, the spaces are also created to cater to that kind of a usage. If you go to a situation where people have a more open kind of an environment, where people are have swimming pools which are outside and whatnot, it's different from the privacy aspects of another culture. So it does, interiors also represent the time and culture and society that it represents.
I have a very limited knowledge of history, but if you see, the older works, if you talk of Islamic architecture or Mughal architecture, there's a lot of interplay in the design between textile designing and architecture and paintings, and so they're all sort of very intermingled. So the patterns you will see on the Taj, or the arches you will see, then you will also see them on your clothes, and you will also see them. So they are all sort of borrowed from each other, and I would say that they had a totally different idea of design in those days. What we are doing, at least now, is we are using our senses, we are using local materials a lot, and not doing too much decoration. And when we talk of interior design of the olden days, it's always had to be for the rich. That if you can afford to make these marble monuments and whatever, and because money was no consideration. So whether it was palaces or whether it was mosques and whatever, so अगर वो मस्जिद भी बनाते थे, वो अपनी शान और शौकत के लिए बनाते थे. It wasn't really for the people, and they didn't lend anything to the common man now, where the only goal was that how do you become rich and how do you become, sort of almost touch me not ke ji wo set ban gaye ya saab ban gaye, whatever. But today I would say that the sensibilities in design have become fairly, I would say, broad comparatively to maybe 40, 50 years ago, where people are feeling the need. I just will give you an example that we were designing the Dolman Mall, and the owners continued to say that how do we get an international feel to it? Okay, I can design an international looking mall, but how the only thing that makes it international, or the mall is all about the merchandise and the outlets and how they're designed and how they're displayed. So I said, look, why don't we do one thing? Let's write down the name of all the members of the Pakistan Institute of Interior Designers and force the shop owners that they can only go to one of these guys to have their shop designed. And they don't have an option. If they want a shop, they have to go to these guys. And it's their choice that wherever they want to go, if there are 15, 20 names there, so it's not... and I think that made a very big start where people were recognizing that you have to have it designed, and what a difference it makes. So they have a budget, they give you the shop, and you work within that budget, within their product, and people who did not have it designed well lost out, and it was evident. So maybe there were 10% who did not feel the need to have it designed well or by a good designer. But I think there is so much awareness right now that you have to go to a sensible person to have your retail design. And I think all of the interior designers, architects have played such an important role in their the sales and the outcome of that. The restaurants now, you cannot go to a restaurant until it has a feel and it has a design. Whether yes, but then you could also I would love to see what Naheed would do for a Patan Khoka, but I'm sure that she can do things. No, I mean, student biryani came to me that can you design our shop around Empress Market? मैंने कहा भाई तू मर जाएगा यार. I don't think I understand that market. And I was very honest to him. And I said, look, I don't think you should ask me to design. But I said, okay, why don't you get your image up? So I sent him to Imran Mir and I said, have your logo developed first. And Imran gave him the idea of also having home delivery. So that's how home delivery began for the biryani. So I'm saying one thing leads to another, and like you said, we are very intelligent and we know everything and everybody's business. So
but it is true that
it would be great for an architect to become a president, by the way, or a prime minister.
I think we can open the question answers from the audience if there are any.
So there's one thing very lacking in Pakistan is the legislation. Is the legislation that surrounds professional services for architecture, interior design, engineering, and so on. I know that the authorities having jurisdiction to approve projects require a registered engineer, but there's no requirement for an architect. And I'm wondering if both the Interior Design Association and the Architecture Association are doing anything about that. This way they will be guaranteed that the services will improve, the design will improve, and the rights of the architectural and the professional field will be ensured. You know, I'm just wondering, this is something that is lacking, and if there's any move to do anything about it.
Well, if you are talking about the architects, there is Institute of Architects Pakistan who does look into the mandate of the architects and designers, but I think PIID is also working towards it. We are a small organization right now and we have to build our strength to make some noise and some voices in the right direction. But as for architecture, there are things happening in the right direction, and taking the cue from that, that's where PIID is also headed towards. Yeah.
I'd also like to add that interior design is, I think we have only scratched the surface right now. People at large do not really understand what interior design is. It is still looked at as interior decoration. I mean, if you go and see any army mess or go anywhere with the armed forces, and you always hear the base commander's wife, she's a very good designer and she has designed our decorated our dining hall. Now with zero understanding that अब वो उन्होंने अपने घर के पर्दे लगा दिए वहाँ सिल्क वाले, अब वो the bearers got court-martialed because he just went and wiped his hand with it, and something else like that. So I'm saying we're just trying to understand that what is the difference? How do you design a movie theater? How do you design a restaurant? How do you design a retail outlet? How do you design anything?
It's come a long way. Like since the time I started interior design, which is I think in 1993, around that time. I used to work in architectural firms before that. From that time, where there was absolutely little or next to no awareness, now I feel it's an atmosphere of beautiful spaces everywhere, be it in a mall. Every restaurant we go to is beautifully designed, and it's all happened in a very short period of time, which is fantastic. And they're such young, creative people. And sometimes when I go into these restaurants, they ask me if I have designed it, because they always associate good spaces with the older lot. And my standard answer is, I wish I had, because they're just so nice. And I think we have, just like Shahid Saab said, we just scratched the surface. There's a whole lot more to look forward to. I think the Indus Valley has done an amazing job training interior designers. They have a fabulous 4-year course now. And we are producing very good talent. And I am very hopeful and optimistic about the atmosphere that it's going to be, can look forward to.
Did you notice when she said older lot was her
Very clear.
If I may add to Naheed, the book is very visual actually, and the book, she's rightly said, it just scratches the surface, the amount of work that keeps coming in our way. The planning of the second has yet to kick in, but people are thinking, the designers are thinking that it's happening. So, and it's evolving. That's the one word that really comes into mind, because it is evolving so fast and in such a pace that it's very hard to keep track. And I keep telling them that if we don't start now, in another couple of years, then these projects will read as, not with time. So the awareness is tremendous. The institutes are, of course, lending their strengths to newcomers, and of course we have the stalwarts here sitting amongst us. So it is an industry that is rapidly happening every which way. There is an awareness where people really want to do, from their rooms to their corporate levels, every which way to be designed. They're very conscious. That consciousness is where we need to build on in the right aesthetics way, and that's all I can say. Yeah.
But just to ask you about the book, I'm hoping this is the first one.
Yes.
So this is a
continuing, it's an ongoing.
Every couple of years that we will be documenting the work of that period.
Yes, so we have that challenge.
It's a very nice chronology of Pakistani interior design work.
Absolutely, and it should have been done a long time ago. There's such beautiful work. I mean, since the last 20 years, we've been seeing beautiful interior design, and there are so many architectural books that have come up within that time, and no one actually thought of documenting interior designers. And I thought Maria and me, we thought that, we take Danish's idea forward and actually do that. And in the process of actually getting work for this book, we've already had people sending us, but by that time it had already gone into halfway into print, so we really couldn't. But we have a whole lot more data which we can put in the book too.
One advantage of this book is that anybody can pick it up and they know who are the people and what kind of work they're doing, which kind of vein they are working in. And
absolutely, yes.
Or some documentation of the project. I mean, if I go to a particular firm, then I only get their profile. But if I want to find somebody and I need to look at variety of different approaches, then I can just pick up the book and do that. And also for students, I think that.
Even on a national level, the book says a lot of what is coming from Pakistan in the creative field. So I think in that level, in that aspect also, books like these should be happening, and should be happening pretty soon, Yeah.
My question is, we are more obsessed with Western designing, both interior as well as exterior. Although, as you all know, that we have got lots of talent in the interior of Sindh also. You go to a place like Tando Muhammad Khan, You go to Hala and you go to other places. There's a lot of talent, and even into our architecture, we haven't come up with a real building which should look like our own. If you go to the Far East, you see they have their own culture. They are maintaining it, whereas we are not. If you even look at our Parliament building, it looks like a matchbox. So I think the cream of architecture that is here today should give more emphasis on trying to make something which should look like Pakistan. Thank you.
Do you want to get that?
Well, there are certain projects in the book that actually do highlight a certain sensibility of the region. But I mean, there are segments of the hospitality wherein we have picked up the Serena. And it's been beautifully done by the craftsmanship of the region, different regions of Pakistan. So I think that's a splendid example. But yes, then there are others which are more on the global, and that would be the retail sector or more like the eatery sector. But then there are small projects that do shine in the conversation with the regional aspect and with what we have in our society.
Also,
I would like to add, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'd like to add that it's always like when you're designing something as either a designer or a non-designer, you always look at your precedents, that what's happened in the past and what you like and what you dislike. Today, we were all taught in school that you don't go and ape your history. कि जी आज आपने arches बनानी शुरू कर दी. The arch was basically developed for an opening because they couldn't do an opening like this. There was no reinforced concrete to do that or no steel, so they had to put two pieces of stone like this so it wouldn't fall down. And they went and developed it further and further and further. Today, we see houses with arches which make no sense, but yes, it is trying to emulate something in a silly way. We don't have those kind of craftsmen, but yes, I do totally agree with you that we cannot forget what we have. Unfortunately, most of us were trained abroad and we came back with a little briefcase full of Western ideas that we said, hey, this was pretty cool, why don't we do that? But I think a local design is evolving right now. And it is evolving very consciously with the use of materials. Unfortunately, इतने materials मिलते हैं आजकल कि we say कि यार ये भी लगा दे, ये भी लगा दे, ये भी लगा दे. But a few of us are very conscious of that and do not use most of those materials, or the way we use them in a little creative way. So I think this is all an evolution that is taking place, and you can't stop that, and this is happening globally. So yes, you are absolutely right. When you go to certain cities, उनकी अपनी खुशबू होती है, and that खुशबू is going away. So it is very important that we realize that. Sorry,
No, I think you said it all. Thank you.
I just wanted to ask you people if you have something called a practicing license to in order to practice interior design. I guess in a way it would discourage the wing commander's wife from putting up the drapes. But
आपको गाने का लाइसेंस नहीं चाहिए होता, सब गा सकते हैं. तो अगर वो wing commander's wife is doing something, it should actually show at the end the difference between chalk and cheese. So I would
there's no license, but I think most people now have recognized the fact that if they want a serious interior design, then they need to go to either an architect or a qualified interior designer. So the trend is definitely there. There's a demand which wasn't there before. So I think we're going in the right direction, but there's no licenses as yet.
I think that across the world, it's like you put license in, to safeguard the security and safety of your people. So there is one thing to be a member of an institute, but there is another thing to have a registered architectural license or registered engineer's license or structural engineer's license, because where there are issues that are affecting human safety, that's where the the legislature's responsibility to safeguard that. In this case, it's very minimal. I mean, if you put the wrong color curtain, or paint the wall a different color than what it should be, or make it an uncomfortable space, it's not directly threatening the society's safety. So that's why it's not
There are many countries in the world where you have to have a license to practice interior design.
Yeah.
I mean, in the United States there isn't.
And eventually, I think we will have a license to practice interior design.
Because like, in the United States, I know that you can be a member of the Institute of Interior Design, but you don't need a license to practice interior design. I don't know, in the UK maybe, I don't know.
I think if the understanding between interior decoration and interior design is realized, half of the battle is won. That is where we, it's very easily we are categorized as, oh, aap to interior decorating karti hain. So, I mean, that kind of itself is a stall. So if that understanding hits the general masses, then things would start happening.
As far as the licensing is concerned, I think we should start at the very basic and have the contractors license, because we have a lot of contractors who don't know what they're doing, and we have serious problems with quality, I think.
Yeah.
Well, even if they don't have a license, I think they should at least be certified. They should be trained.
Yeah.
And I think it should be in our contracts that when we say that we are calling a plumber or an electrician or an AC contractor, they should have been certified by some authority or through a training program, that they said that I have gone to, say, Hunar Foundation, and I've gone through my course and I am a certified plumber. So I think we have to start doing that, because I think there's enough nonsense going on, and you're absolutely right that they have to have some education behind them before they get the license.
I just thought that for the next book, before you go to interior design part 2, you can also do what not to do, because there's so many bad interiors, and even sitting in this room we can see like there's so much clutter, but we're all interior designers here, or people with better sense of aesthetics, right? So just like clothes, for instance, you see people wearing all kinds of stuff, materials mixed together. But then the khadi came along, or Pret came along in Pakistan, and things started changing. So I guess it's just a process. The other thing,
yeah, sorry. No,
yeah, I
please go
have
ahead.
two observations. The other thing is, what is regional? Because all our previous architecture was built during the British era or the Mughals. So how far back do we have to go? Or maybe the current is regional, like Shahid Saab said. That's it.
I think by exposing what not to do, you're kind of building that momentum on and focusing on bad stuff. So the way forward really is to make more and more beautiful spaces, and and expose people to that. And there was a time when I started interior design, people used to say, ye nahi karo, unko nahi samajh aayegi, they can't think like that, they will only understand this, so do make this. And this used to happen a lot with the people who used to work for me. Naheed, they're not going to get this. And my standard answer was that if we don't educate them, if we don't give them what we think is appropriate, they will never learn. And now finally we have the atmosphere where people are exposed to so much good stuff. Their aspirations, even the people who didn't know or were ignorant of it, their level of understanding of awareness has become so good. They aspire to like the shop that you were talking about, their clothes were not as good, but then they aspired to be khadi. So our job is just to make great spaces more and more as much as we can, and I think we are completely going there. And about the second part of your question, I think we can get inspiration from just about anything, I think. And as far as being contextual to our region is concerned, I think Aga Khan Hospital is a classic example where a healing space or a space for recuperation has beautifully integrated our past and our history. And it's done it in a very modern context. So you have a very minimal and a very kind of a feel-good space without that heaviness that is sometimes associated with older structures. So I think that is really the way to go. Bring about really high energy spaces that we have evolved in present times and integrated with past history. I think we can't really, I think it would be just unfair and stupid to just take everything literally and put it forward. I think it's all about, life is about change. As they say, the only thing permanent is impermeability. So one has to recognize that and evolve a present paradigm, a present theme, which is more, perhaps a little bit more global, but also takes care of our history and makes it Pakistani.
I think regional is probably more more sensible. That if we live in a warm climate and we are designing a space which is more suited for a cold climate, it doesn't make sense. If we live in an area where stone is available and we are using brick, it doesn't make sense. So it's common sense. What is these things? That's how it evolved regionally or contextually over a period of thousands of years. And if you are going to export and import something from a different time, different era, different place, and then impose it on a different context, yes, it will make no sense. But I think it's more sensibility than anything else. It's very simple in some ways. Yes, there are symbols. There are things which have, again, it's a cultural or nuance or a historic significance. And I was going to ask, and I think we are running out of time now, that in situations where the art or the furniture or something else can come first, and then you design the envelope for it. So that is also things that have happened. Michelangelo's Pieta is more important than the cathedral itself. So which one comes first is also debatable. Anyway, any other questions?
Thank you, and thanks for a wonderful session. I just wanted to emphasize that practicality, I don't know much about interior design, I'm a doctor, but practicality in interior design is very important, and surely something that you focus on. It's just because you mentioned how things should be more beautiful, and they certainly should, but I hope that modern design, particularly in residential spaces and also buildings for particular purposes like the hospitals you mentioned, they have to be fit for purpose in more than just aesthetics, and I'm sure that's something you all consider. Thank you.
I think that's a given. I mean, if it doesn't work, then it fails. So that's a given, and beyond that, we can talk about the statistics.
I think practical, like you said, it's really a given, and we. When we get a design brief, it's purely functional. In the first draft is a very functional plan, and aesthetics just kind of slip in again. Like it's again from a feeling of space and a feeling of just a happy space. So it's again a feeling-based thing. But the starting point is always function. You without a brief, one can't really do anything. You can't just make a beautiful space without that starting point.
Well, I think we have come to the end of our session. Thank you very much for attending it. I want to thank specifically Shahid Saab for being here, taking time to be part of it. Naheed, thank you so much for being part of this. And I want to especially thank Maria for not only being here, but to be such an instrumental part of producing this book and authoring it. I think this is a wonderful addition to our collection of books, and I think this is, can you tell us where it's available and how to get it?
Yeah, it is available in a couple of book outlets outside. Liberties has it, and then the other ones, NNA also has it. So the book is available at the KLF.
And unless it gets gifted to you by Maria.
Well, it's a great gift to give, so you can get them too. Yeah. Iftikhar, you should buy some to give to others.
I just also heard that Liberty is giving a 1,000 rupee discount today.
Yeah, 1,100 rupees.
1,100 rupees.
So it's dollars and cents. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks.